Hello, nation. Do you know that only 20% of people with diabetes have all three common conditions under control: blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes? And people have been pulling their hair out, especially Bill. Why? And it turns out that now that healthcare plans can follow prescription refills, they know that a big problem falls under the category of adherence with medications. Turns out that many people are not refilling their prescriptions for these very important metabolic problems. And that is probably one of the major reasons we're not seeing better numbers trying to control those conditions. Bill?
You know, one of the things you're highlighting, I want to make sure people understand, if you have type 2 diabetes and you think about all the stuff you've heard about, you've been told about, maybe you've been in a diabetes education program about positive, healthy steps you should take to be able to manage your diabetes successfully and live a long and healthy life. It turns out that all of those things you heard are not equally important. And one of the biggest steps you can take that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, and the reason we're talking about this, is actually, are you on the right medication or medications, and are you taking them? And I don't think we give enough effort and focus to that. The problem, of course, as Steve mentioned, is we know lots of people are not doing great with that. Often they discontinue taking their meds, which is why we're seeing such dismal results across the United States in terms of how people are doing. And we want to make sure it's understandable because we got a bunch here, for example. Most people, myself included, and probably you, aren't thrilled about taking medications.
Prescription medication.
Good point.
I take this much vitamins every day. You should see the color of my urine. Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's a really good point. But you're right, it's prescribed medications. There's some funky feelings people have about that. There's this concern, the more medication I take, that must mean I'm sicker. There's worried about side effects. And oftentimes you don't notice, for good reasons, all the positive benefits of taking diabetes medications. That's because you're dealing with an invisible disease, because the things we're trying to create to control, like making sure you don't run into scary complications, are way down the line. You don't see them immediately, those effects. And so here we are suggesting to people to take some prescribed medication, and trust me, it's going to be good for you down the road. And yet people are so iffy and worried about it, and that's why so many people discontinue. And that's one of the tragedies we see in terms of the treatment with diabetes nowadays.
Yeah, you're right. You talked about the invisible nature of diabetes, and you really don't feel bad when your blood pressure is high. You don't feel bad when your cholesterol is out of whack, but these are the things that cause problems down the road. So, I mean, if you're on a budget and you see scary commercials with lawyers on television, and you don't feel anything different if you don't take your medications, you don't take them. And I can tell you what happens, in the clinic. You come in and you say, Mrs. Schwartz, are you, your numbers are not really doing well. Are you taking your medication? And they say, yes, doctor, because they're afraid, to show that they may not be taking the medication. And what do most caregivers do? They increase their dose. And they increase the dose of the medication they're not taking. So it's a serious problem. And I think no one likes to take a bunch of medications. They always say to me, Dr. Edelman, do I really have to take these medications? But it takes time.
And I've said that to my own doctor. I mean, again, it's this belief that if I can take fewer medications, that means I'm healthier, right? And you know what? To some degree, that's kind of true. It's true if your numbers are good, right? If you're still keeping your blood pressure and your lipids and your blood sugar under control. And that's the catch. And so, bottom line is what we recommend to the people I meet, people living every day with diabetes, is we say, make a point of bringing this up with your doctor and bringing up not just what you're doing or not doing, but saying, look, I need to be clear about, here's this one medication I'm taking. What are the benefits? Why are you, doctor, recommending that I take this? What are the pros? And also, what are the negatives? What are the cons? What are the worries about taking this medication immediately, whether it's side effect or long term? And doc, you've recommended this to me. Why do you think the pros outweigh the cons? I think that's a respectful thing to be able to share with our patients, and it's an important thing for patients to bring up with their doctors. Because if you know that, things are going to change.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to end our Edelman report, because I was going to suggest, what should you do? And I really believe that if you feel confident that your physician has prescribed the right medication for you, just by asking questions, then I think you will feel more confident taking it, and those adherence rates will improve. And so I think that's a good message, Bill. Thank you.
Let me add one more thing, if I can, about
Sure,
this.
sure.
You know, in all the research we've done, one of the things that really has stood out is one of the biggest contributors to why people do continue to take their medications over time is the degree to which they report that they trust their physician.
That's it.
And that's why not only do we want to recommend to people to be talking to your doctor to make sure you understand the pros and the cons and why you should bother taking any of these pills, but you want to make sure you're seeing a doctor who you think is competent, you think is on your side, someone you can really trust.
Someone who listens to
That makes
you.
all the difference. Absolutely.
Bill, I trust you.
Well, thank you.
So long,
So
nation.
listen in.